The Book of Destiny. Translation of Kitab-ul-Taqdeer. Author: Ghulam Ahmed Parwez. Translated by Dr. Ejaz Rasool. Glasgow, UK. ISBN number 9798884207042. 3 Chapter 3, Man. We have witnessed that in the second stage of the creative program of Allah, His Amr acquired the form of a law, and the things of the universe were created compelled to obey these laws, and Allah made this commitment Himself that He will not make any changes to these laws. This was a very great revolution in the domain of creation, but there was an even greater revolution than this, and that was the creation of man. Laws were also defined for man, but he was not created compelled to obey these. He is given the choice that if he wishes he can live life according to these laws, and if he wishes he can transgress against these. Now just reflect what a supreme revolution this was in the creative program of Allah. 1. Sovereign Allah, possessor of limitless authority, omnipotent, but by declaring the laws devised by Him as immutable, imposed a constraint on Himself. 2. The things of the universe have been created obligated to obey these laws. 3. And man is created as possessor of choice and intent. 3.1 Man, possessor of choice and intent. The one who is constrained only has one path before him on which he has to tread, willingly or unwillingly. But the one before whom there is more than one possibility, and he has the freedom to adopt whichever path he wishes, is called possessor of freedom to choose. This is called the right to choose, choice. The Quran declared about the creation of man that we have shown him two paths, 90:10. In another verse it is stated, we have shown him the correct path of life, now it is dependent on his own decision whether he adopts it or refuses to tread on it. 76:3. This has been expanded at another place. Say to them, Haqq has arrived from the direction of your Rabb, now whoever wishes can adopt it, and whoever wishes can reject it. 18:29. It is stated in Surah Al-Qamar, man can only acquire that for which he makes an effort. 53:39. The impetus for motivation to make an effort is the intention of man. This is why we are informed at a number of places that man can only acquire that for which he makes an intention. It is noted in Surah Bani Israel that the individual who forms the decision to attain immediate benefits in the world, we bestow those same benefits on him, and the individual who aims to acquire the bounties of the future, and then makes an effort for their attainment, we grant him his desire. This is an arena of action and deed, in whichever domain someone makes an effort, he keeps progressing in that. 17:18-20. We have not placed obstructions in the paths of our bounties, these are open to all. Whoever wishes should acquire these through effort and action. It is stated in Surah An-Nisa, whoever forms the intention to acquire immediate benefits, say to him that, there are immediate benefits with Allah, and also bounties of the future. Whatever you desire to attain, that is what you will receive. 4:134, see also, 25:62. 3.2 The responsibility of man. As will be described in detail in the next chapter, the law of requital, man has been declared as being responsible for all his deeds, and it is this very responsibility of his due to which the results of his deeds appear before him. The whole system of reward and punishment for deeds revolves around this pivotal point that man is responsible for his own deeds, and it is obvious that only he can be held responsible for his deed who carries it out with his own choice and intent. The one who is forced to carry out some task simply cannot be held responsible for it. On this basis the Quran has made it clear that the one who is compelled, and the one who has freedom of choice and intent, can never both be equal. 16:75-76. This is the reason that it has stated that if someone is made to commit even an act of kufr under compulsion, he will not be held accountable for it. There will only be accountability for that deed which is enacted through one's own choice and intent. 16:106. At another place it is stated, If you make an error by mistake, then it has no weight. Culpability will only be for that in which there is the intention of the heart. 33:5. This is the very principle which he has defined for the system of law for justice in the world too, according to which he has differentiated between killing in error and premeditated murder, and has specified separate punishments for both of them, a severe punishment for premeditated murder, and a lenient one for killing in error. 4:92. 3.3 The story of Adam, elucidation of constraint and choice. The Quran has solved the issue of constraint, jabr, and choice metaphorically in a very engaging style in the account of Adam. Allah gave a command to Adam and also to Iblis. Disobedience of this command was committed by Adam and also by Iblis. When Adam was asked, "Why did you do this?" he replied with downcast eyes that, "O our Rabb, we did wrong to our own selves." 7:23. We made a mistake, we acknowledge it, and we are regretful and ashamed, that is. Adam accepted that he is responsible for this transgression. Since he accepted his responsibility and realized that he had committed an error, hence the possibilities of reformation and recovery became illuminated for him. He was told, "No matter. We will keep sending guidance towards you. Whoever amongst you follows it, he will remain secure from fear and grief." 2:38. This is what is called the possibility of regaining the lost paradise. The Quran has termed this as tawbah after committing an error by mistake. 16:119. Contrary to this, when this same question was put to Iblis, that why did you transgress against Allah's command, he replied to Allah that how did I transgress? It was you who misguided me. 7:16, 15:39, I am a constrained human being, I neither have the choice to obey nor to transgress. Here, everything takes place according to your command. If you had not wished it, then how would I have been able to resort to transgression? Therefore, when Iblis refused to accept responsibility for his action, it was stated to him that there is simply no possibility of reformation and recovery within you. You have strayed far from the possibility of reformation of yourself. 15:34. You are disgraced and expelled. 7:18, condemned, humiliated and ruined, eternal despair is your destiny. The meaning of Iblis itself is that of hopelessness, that is, how can the one who views himself to be constrained bring about a transformation in his own condition? This is the evidence of his eternal state of hopelessness. 3.4 The path of kufr and mushrikeen. The Quran has stated that when Iblis had said that, if you had not wished it, then how could I have been disobedient, this is the very same stance of the kufr and mushrikeen in the world. They also do not hold themselves responsible for their own acts, instead they say that if this had not been in the mashiat of Allah, then how would we have been able to adopt the path of kufr and shirk? Whatever happens here takes place according to the will of Allah. It is stated in Surah Al-An'am. When you will say to these mushrikeen that what kind of path is this that you have adopted, in reply they will say that the mashiat of Allah was simply like this. If Allah had not wished this, then neither we nor our ancestors would have committed shirk. 6:148. In reply to them, Allah stated, "Say to them that whatever you say are your own conjectures and ignorance. Reality has nothing to do with this." 6:148. It is stated in Surah Al-Zukhruf that when you ask them this question, in reply they say, "If Allah had willed, we would not have worshipped these false gods. What can we do? This was simply the will of Allah. What can man do against his will? Hence, we are constrained." 43:20. In response to this, it is stated, "This is total ignorance, foolishness, a lie, a false accusation." 43:20. It is stated in Surah Yasin that when these capitalists are instructed to keep your wealth openly available so that the poor can also obtain bread, these kuffar say to the mu'mineen, "Well, this is something strange that you are saying. If Allah had wished that they do not remain hungry, then He would certainly have provided them with rizq. From their remaining hungry and naked, it is patently obvious that Allah simply does not wish that they should receive food and clothing. So Allah wishes them to remain hungry and naked, and you are telling us to make arrangements for their food and clothing. If we do this, then it will be against the mashiat of Allah. This will be a declaration of war against Him. We cannot become ready to do this. 36:47. In reply to this, the Quran has stated that, "Say to them that what more can be said than this, that you are greatly misguided." 36:47. 3.5 The will of Allah. Pause here for a moment and reflect that when we declare, standing or sitting, that this was how Allah had intended it, His will was simply this, it was His mashiat that it should be like this is indeed what He desired. If this had not been His will, then how could this have taken place? Hence whatever happens here is in accordance with the will of Allah. Man cannot intervene in this in any way, no one can dare to interfere in this issue standing or sitting. We keep uttering this day and night, so much so, that the greater the extent to which one utters this, then the closer he is believed to be to Allah, and the one who advises that, "Do not go against the wish of the beloved, people should not supplicate in my favor." He is considered to be a worshipper of Allah to the same degree. Just ponder what the Quran declares about people who say such things. The verses of the Quran are before you, you can reach a conclusion yourself in their light. If we offer an opinion, then there will be a complaint. 3.6 The mashiat of man in the human world. It is the declaration of the Quran that these kufr and mushrikeen, in obedience to Iblis, state that whatever happens in the human world is in accordance with the mashiat of Allah. And Allah declares to mankind that, "In your world it is your mashiat which is functioning." 41:40. You can do what you wish in any way you like. We have created you as a being possessing choice and intent. Following this, we do not wish to snatch away your choice and intent by interfering in your affairs and by imposing our mashiat on you. If we had wished to snatch it away, then why would we have bestowed it in the first place? This is you evading your responsibility, that despite possessing choice and intent, you proclaim yourselves to be constrained. 3.7 Compulsion in choice. But together with stating that you can act according to your own wishes, he has stated another thing too, due to which after this choice of man, an aspect of constraint appears before us. It is stated, "Do whatever you wish, but understand this much, that every deed of yours will produce a particular outcome according to our law of requital." 41:40. You do have this choice that you can carry out whatever act you wish, but once you have committed an act, then you will no longer retain this control over it that you can prevent its consequence, or create some change in it. This matter will be outside the domain of your authority. You have the choice to tread on one path out of two, but you do not have this choice that though you adopt path A, you desire to reach the destination to which path B leads. As has already been written, you have the choice to swallow poison or a sweet, but you do not have any choice over this, that though you swallow poison, you can create the outcome of that of a sweet. We have defined a law to establish an outcome for every deed of yours. Our law becomes applicable on you according to whatever kind of act you carry out, so that the defined outcome for this deed can be established. The initiative is in your hands, our law keeps on following behind you. 3.8 Whatever man becomes, that same kind of law will become applicable on him. The Quran has made this reality clear at a number of places. Referring to the misdemeanors of Bani Israel, it is stated, "When they adopted crooked paths, then Allah, the law of requital, made their hearts crooked." 61:5. They were told that now the final messenger of Allah has arrived. If you give him your support, then the period of your punishment of ruin and humiliation will come to an end, but if you revert to your former way again, then we will also revert to our former way, and you will be trapped in the same punishment again. 17:8. Our law is that whoever turns his face away from the right path, we turn his face towards that same direction. 51:9. It is stated in Surah At-Tawbah that, then when they turned away from the correct path, then Allah also turned their hearts away, 9:127. It is stated in Surah An-Nisa about the people who adopt another path after abandoning obedience to the Messenger and the path of the Mu'mineen, that regarding those people whose path they adopt, we also join them together with them, 4:115. Contrary to this, whoever keeps us in mind, we also remember him, 2:152. Whoever makes an effort for the eminence and loftiness of our deen, we also make him eminent and superior. Whoever helps us, we also help him, 47:7. From the above explanations you have seen that whatever path man proposes for himself, the law of Allah becomes congruent with it accordingly. 3.9 Change in the conditions of nations. The Quran also informs us that whichever law is applicable to individuals, the taqdeer of nations also keeps changing in accordance with it. In other words, whatever kind of psychological change some nation produces within itself, a change takes place in its outer condition in accordance with that. It is stated in Surah Ar-Ra'd. It is a fact that whatever is with a nation, Allah does not make any change in it, until that nation does not produce a change in its psyche itself, 13:11, see also, 8:53. This means that just like individuals, there are laws established by Allah for the rise and fall, and life and death of nations. Whatever kind of path a nation adopts, the same kind of law of Allah becomes imposed on it and establishes the consequence of the path of that nation. 3.10 Further elaboration of the word taqdeer. From the above explanations the meaning of taqdeer will have become clear. Let us bring to mind once more whatever was written earlier about the correct meaning of the word taqdeer. It is noted in Surah Al-An'am. Allah made the night for rest, and the sun and the moon as the means for counting and numbering, of time. This is the taqdeer of Allah who is Aziz and Alim. 6:96. It is obvious that we will state this in other words as this is the law established by Allah. Similarly, it is stated in Surah Yasin. And the sun is heading towards its appointed destination, this is the taqdeer of Allah who is Aziz and Alim. 36:38. At a third place it is stated, and we have illuminated glittering lamps, stars, in your nearer heavens, and also made them as a means of protection for you. This is the taqdeer of Allah who is Aziz and Alim. 41:12. As an illustration, it is noted in Surah Al-Furqan. He created everything and then defined taqdeer for them. 25:2. Here, too, by taqdeer are meant the laws established by Allah. In Surah Al-Dahr, regarding the chalices of paradise, it is stated, these chalices will be of sparkling silver, and they will have been made according to specific scales. 76:16. These are the places in which the word taqdeer has appeared in the Quran, and its meanings are absolutely clear, i.e. the scales established by Allah, or the laws of Allah according to which the system of the universe in busy functioning. From this is it evident that the meanings with which this word, taqdeer, is commonly used among us are completely contrary to the Quranic meanings for it. The taqdeer of man, his taqdeer, my taqdeer, this is all wrong. Taqdeer is only that of Allah, i.e. the law of Allah. Hence, in the case of human beings, we will say that taqdeer is that law of Allah which becomes imposed upon man according to his condition. Whatever kind of path man adopts, the same kind of taqdeer of Allah, the law of Allah, becomes imposed upon him. Whoever puts his finger into fire, this taqdeer of Allah becomes applicable on him that he becomes engulfed in the suffering of burning and swelling, and when he applies soothing cream on it, then this taqdeer of Allah becomes applicable on him that he should attain comfort and solace. 3.11 The verdict of Umar Farouk, second caliph. Further elucidation of this very reality is illustrated by that incident in the time of Caliph Umar Farouk, when plague spread in one location, he advised abandoning this habitation and moving into the jungle. At this a companion named Abu Ubaidah said, "What? Do you wish to flee from the taqdeer of Allah?" He replied, Yes. I wish to flee from one Taqdeer of Allah towards another Taqdeer. By remaining in a plague-infested area, and then suffering from the plague by becoming infected as a result of the contaminated environment also occurs according to the Taqdeer of Allah, divine law. And by leaving this place and moving to a clean environment and thus becoming protected from this danger, also takes place according to the Taqdeer of Allah, divine law. Now this matter is up to the choice of man, which Taqdeer of Allah he wishes to impose upon himself. Iqbal has noted regarding this: heighten the level of yourself to such an extent that before every Taqdeer, Allah himself inquires from his servant, tell me what your wish is. This also means that the individual whose resolve is strong changes his path according to his will, and since whatever kind of choice he makes, the same kind of Taqdeer of Allah will become applicable on him. Therefore the human being who is the possessor of firm resolve gets the Taqdeer of Allah imposed on himself according to his wishes. In contrast to this, the path of the man with a weak resolve keeps changing under external influences. Hence, this is not a matter of choice for him what kind of Taqdeer of Allah, which divine law, becomes imposed on him. In other words, he is constrained like plants and stones, and consequently remains under the control of Taqdeer, whereas the possessor of resolve keeps his Taqdeer under the obedience of his choice. 3.12 How did this meaning change? This is the Quranic meaning of Taqdeer. How this meaning converted into that meaning which is currently prevalent among us will be explained further on, where it will be described how the deen bestowed by the Quran converted into madhab, religion. This was that fundamental shift due to which the concepts of deen about Allah, the universe, and man, converted into the concepts of religion. As a consequence of this, instead of being a sovereign ruling according to law, Allah acquired the form of an absolute dictator, and man, instead of being a creation possessing choice and intent, was made into a prisoner shackled in the chains of Taqdeer, while the religious chiefs set themselves as the keepers of this jail. This tale is agonizing and this hadith is heart-rending. But the opportunity to expound on it will come further on. 3.13 A principled discourse about the doctrine of Jabr. Those who believe man to be constrained due to the conversion of deen into religion, that is, proponents of the doctrine of Jabr, also present some verses of the Quran in support of their belief. A detailed discussion will take place about these verses in the coming chapters, but in this connection it seems appropriate that the principle of the argument which is touched upon should be brought to the fore at this point, so that the matter becomes clear in principle right here. It is commonly averred that Allah has stated that 1. No individual knows what he will do tomorrow, 31-34. He does not know where his death will take place, 18-23. 2. And Allah has stated about himself that Allah is aware of both the present of people and also of their future, 2:255, and other places. From the first verse this logic is drawn that when man does everything according to his own intention, then where is the difficulty for him to ascertain what he will be doing tomorrow? This situation can only arise when man is constrained, hence he will be justified in saying, how can I know what I will be doing tomorrow? Whatever I will be made to do, I will do exactly that. This logic is flawed at a basic level. 3.14 Knowledge of the future. There is no doubt that man is a possessor of choice and intent, but his choice is not limitless. It is conditional on many such circumstances about which he can say nothing in advance and is impacted by so many influences over which he has no control as an individual. If man lived in such a world where neither external events and incidents could influence his life, nor the actions in life of other human beings could alter the direction of events, then he could assert what he will do in the future. But man lives in a world where at every step he is affected by external events and the societal environment. If the question was just about events in the external universe, even then we could have said that as human knowledge continues to progress regarding the secrets and facts of the functioning of the universe, he will become enabled to acquire knowledge in advance about events which are going to manifest in the future. For example, just as today he can say with assurance when there will be an eclipse of the sun or moon, similarly, he will Also be able to ascertain the time and even the location of an earthquake in advance. But the difficulty for man is that he is surrounded by a crowd of other human beings, each and every one of whom is the possessor of his own choice and intent, and the effects of their decisions also impacts other individuals. The situation today is such that the party about to come into power in the USA, or the election of the president there, shakes the political scene of nations of the world, and causes tremors in world markets. How can a man inhabiting such a world predict what will happen tomorrow? The moon can affirm at what time and at what place I will rise. The sun can declare at what time and at what point I will set. Man can never say with certainty when and where his death will take place. The evidence for man being constrained cannot be proven from this. All that can be ascertained from this is that in a communal world, the decision of one individual is predicated on many such elements and affected by those factors over which he has no control, so that he can say nothing about the future with certainty. The reason that the Quran has placed so much emphasis on making use of reflection and reasoning and intellect and insight, is that the purpose from this is for man, as far as possible, to take into account the circumstances and conditions and assess the various elements and factors to the best of his ability before formulating any decision. But he can only do this to the limits of what is possible, he can never say anything with certainty and assurance. 3.15 Divine Knowledge. Now let us come to the second argument, that Allah is aware of both the present and the future of people. It is said that knowledge of the future can only be regarding that thing which is deterministic. The entity whose condition is such that it can change its intention whenever it wishes, what can be predicted about its future? For example, an expert in astronomy can predict 100 years in advance when there will be an eclipse of the moon, but even 10 scientists cannot say that this fly which is sitting here at this moment in time, where it will sit next after flying away. Hence, when Allah knows what man will do tomorrow, then from this it can be inferred that man is not a holder of choice but is constrained. This reasoning is based on one fundamental misconception. The issue of divine knowledge is related to the issue of time, and from the philosophical viewpoint the issue of time is extremely complex and difficult. As has been said in the preface, my effort is to avoid ontological discourses and philosophical interpretations as far as possible in this book, and to present everything in a simple and straightforward style. Moreover, without becoming entangled in the complexities of the issue of time, we feel it suffices to note that there is a fundamental difference between divine knowledge and human knowledge. The Quran has declared the alternation of day and night, day coming after night and night after day, as great signs, and has made the movement of the sun and moon the means for counting and numbering. This is that counting and numbering through which we divide time into past, present, and future, otherwise in reality there is no existence of past, present, and future. During sleep when we become unaware of this alternation of night and day, no sense whatsoever remains of time. In the words of Bergson, past, present, and future are merely the signs of those marks which we have put on the yardstick of time merely for our convenience. Allah is above and beyond these demarcations, thus for him this division of time has no existence. Before him, in the words of Iqbal, time has the status of an eternal now. The difficulty is that we cannot cause this reality to be understood even from an example, because while we remain in this current state of awareness and consciousness of ours, we cannot rise beyond the sense of time. Although in relation to space this can be explained, partially, by an example. While we are sitting in the enclosed yard of our house, whatever is happening on the other side of the wall will be unseen for us, that is, invisible to our eyes. But for the individual who is sitting on the rooftop, the events on the other side of the wall are not unseen, but will be witnessed, that is, a matter taking place before his eyes. When Allah has stated that he knows the unseen and the seen, this means that he is witnessing everything from such heights from where nothing can be hidden from his sight. That which you call unseen, for him is also manifestly seen. As has just been said, as long as our consciousness and senses remain functioning, as long as we are making use of our intellect and awareness, we cannot go beyond the differentiation of past, present, and future. We rise beyond this differentiation when our consciousness and senses are suspended, and intellect and awareness disappear. If some individual sleeps continuously for 3 days, after waking up he will never be able to tell what the date is on that day, and the one remaining unconscious for 6 months or 1 year will not be able to ascertain even the month and year. In short, after becoming ignorant of intellect and awareness, we are beyond the states of past, present, and future. Instead of describing this as beyond, it will be more appropriate to describe it as being unaware. But due to his complete knowledge, Allah is far above these parameters. In front of him, from the beginning to eternity, time holds the status of the present. 3.16 Prophecies are merely conjectures and guesswork. In order to understand this matter in the simplest of words, we can say that at every moment man retains the choice to alter his intention and decision. But Allah has knowledge of this, what he is going to change his decision to. Hence, though man cannot say what he will do tomorrow, Allah knows it. Hence, those people who give news about the future of men, make prophecies, they merely make use of conjecture and guesswork. When man cannot say with certainty and assurance about himself as to what he will do tomorrow, then how can some other human being say this about him? Ask those who offer such information about human beings, that, never mind man himself, where will this fly which is sitting here, fly? Off to next. You will see that all their prophecies will end up futile. When some individual cannot make this kind of prophecy about a fly, then who can say about man, who is a possessor of choice, what he will do tomorrow, other than Allah? The Quran states that during the era of infancy of man, soothsayers, astrologers, and fortune tellers used to entrap simple human beings in their nets by claiming that they bring news of the heavens. But in the era following the revelation of the Quran, when humanity is reaching its age of maturity, those making these kinds of claims will receive fiery lashes from the domain of knowledge. 72:8-9. 3.17 Deen converted into religion, Mudhab. These were details about the era of Deen, Islam. After this, when Deen converted into religion, these ruinous armies of prophesying, soothsayers, astrologers, fortune tellers, and diviners also appeared even amongst us. And that human being, the possessor of resolve and choice, who was to write his taqdeer with his own hand, became ensnared in the bait of seeking his kismat, fortune, by wandering around showing his palms to others. In the words of Iqbal, today the pattern of their deeds is their taqdeer. Though Allah's taqdeer was hidden in their intentions, what was unacceptable gradually became acceptable. In slavery the conscience of nations becomes transformed.